Well, you may have heard last night there was a little bit of debate fun between all the candidates for the GOP presidential nomination for 2024. Joining us now to discuss from the RNC, their strategic communications director, Tommy Pigott. Thank you so much for being back with us today, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
No problem. Now, in your mind with last night's debate, I mean, at this point, everybody's had their picks on Twitter and everybody's discussed everything. What was the topic, the question, that was the most poignant for you that showed who everybody was?
Well, I think to me, what really showed the contrast between Republicans and Democrats was Bidenomics, was that discussion of economy right at the top, because it's such an important issue to the American people. I mean, I think that to me was a really powerful difference between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans who want to empower families and businesses, and Democrats who want to spend us into oblivion. That answer, and then also the fact that the border came up. I mean, Democrats run away from the border every single chance they can. They don't even discuss the border. They don't visit the border. Republicans took it head on, and it's such an important issue. And then finally, I think the closing statements of everybody were really powerful. Really, this message from Republicans about reversing Biden's disastrous policies. Biden almost seems intent on forcing this country into decline, and we have to make him a one-term president to keep that from happening.
Gotcha. Now, there was one question last night that I don't really know where Fox got this one from. The UFO question? What was that all about? I mean, is that so topical?
Well, to be honest, there's some friends of mine that were actually really happy that question was asked. I mean, it's amazing. I think there's a lot of people that, or at least a group of people that are really into the UFO questions. And who knows, a few years from now, we may look back at that question as more philosophical and more important than we realize now. Who knows? But I do think there are a lot of great questions asked, and I think sometimes you need to get that sort of question into, just to keep a new topic in there and try to make sure that the candidates stay on their feet.
I got to say is that I am not the biggest Chris Christie fan, but the fact that he got that question and called it out and said, I'm the one who gets the UFO question. I mean, I thought that was actually a highlight moment of the debate. Something else we saw last night was it seemed like Vivek Ramaswamy came in there trying to be Trump and taking a lot of the fire, which seemed to elevate DeSantis a whole lot more. Now, I looked at all the candidates on the stage and I said any single one of these guys or gal will be better than Joe Biden. Do you think that the American public walked away with something like that as well?
I do think that. I mean, I just think if you look at recent polling that shows only 20% of Americans or thereabout want Joe Biden to run for re-election. Only 20%. I mean, there's barely anything that 20% of Americans, there's barely anything that 80% of Americans agree on, except for the fact they don't want Joe Biden to run for a second term. And I think watching that debate last night reaffirmed that Republicans have solutions to these issues. It obviously was a debate, so you obviously had that back and forth. You had those disagreements. You had people trying to stand out, people trying to make their distinction between themselves and other candidates. That naturally happens in every debate. But I think our candidates will be stronger for it. Our Republican nominee in the long run will be stronger for it. And I think ultimately the fact that Republicans had solutions on the economy, on women's sports, on the border, on foreign policy, I think all of those are really important for voters to see. And I think no voter could watch that debate and doubt that any of these candidates would be better from Joe Biden. Just from the standpoint of energy alone, each candidate has such passion and belief in what they're saying. And I think that was a real positive takeaway from the night.
We're talking with Tommy Pigott, who's the Strategic Communications Director for the RNC. Give us a little look behind the curtain. What goes into planning a debate like this? I mean, is it really just the Fox show and the GOP says, yep, you guys do it. We're just going to slap our logo on everything. Or is there some other way you guys are involved with this whole thing?
Definitely not. It's a partnership between us. It's a partnership between us and Rumble and Fox News and our other partners, Young America's Foundation, to really turn this into an event. There's a whole host of events actually around the debate itself. There was a convention partner fair, for example, which had local businesses, up to 300 vendors from Wisconsin ahead of next year's convention in Milwaukee that came and really advertised what services they have. There's a summer meeting that's happening where Republican members get together and discuss things. So there's a whole host of events that are going on that are around this debate. Fox News did play obviously a major role in terms of the setup of the debate itself, the questions, the format. But the RNC was very much involved in making sure that last night was a success and in making sure that we had candidates on the stage that Republican voters wanted to hear from.
Now, I actually watched this whole thing on Rumble last night. I was sitting in an airport, and airports, did they get rid of all the TVs at airports because nobody's watching CNN? I did notice that throughout my entire travels. I was coming back from family vacation. I didn't see any TVs anywhere except for the bars. They weren't in the waiting areas like they normally are. So I'm watching this thing on,
Well, maybe that's why CNN's ratings are down so much.
Yeah, you get brownie points for that one. So as I'm watching this thing on Rumble, I actually thought it was very refreshing and very unique because so often, Republicans aren't allowed to say what they want on YouTube or Facebook or any of these other big tech social media companies. How'd the Rumble partnership come to be?
Well, the Rumble partnership was really a part of the RNC's effort to first really embrace technology platforms that are different than maybe in the past or people have heard from. On top of that, we have a real emphasis in terms of making sure that we want to be where Republican voters are. So we want to make sure that we're reaching Republican voters in the platforms that they're using. And then also, big tech censorship is an important issue for us. So we want to make sure that we're embracing platforms that embrace free speech. We've all seen such censorship coming out of the likes of the old Twitter and Facebook, a lot of those files that are coming to light about censorship of conservative ideas. So making sure that we're pushing back on that, empowering platforms that believe in free speech, and then also meeting Republican voters where they are. All of that was part of why Rumble Video was a great partner for this debate.
I think it was pretty awesome that you guys did that. Also, I thought some of the commercials were pretty standout on that. The Black Rifle Coffee Company commercial. I mean, if Bud Light had been running those commercials this whole time, they may not be in the trouble they're in right now. The Russell Brand commercials were fantastic. That was all some really excellent stuff. Overall, I really enjoyed the Rumble experience where I was thinking to myself, I know my show airs on Rumble and all that kind of stuff, but I thought it was really, really great. In the last few minutes we have with Tommy Pigott from the RNC. So I know you guys aren't taking sides in all this, but do you guys hear if the Trump campaign is going to be participating in upcoming debates, or is this just going to be the MO going forward?
Hey, we made no secret that we wanted Trump to be part of this debate. We wanted all the Republican candidates that qualified to be part of this debate. Trump's a great debater. I don't think there's a single Republican voter that doesn't want to hear from Trump on the debate stage. I don't want to get ahead of what he might do in future debates, but we definitely want him on that stage, especially if he qualifies, as I'm sure he will. So we want all the Republicans up there because we want any Republican candidate that qualified for these debates to have a chance to share their vision with voters, and that's what Republican voters want too.
Gotcha. Just before we let you go, so you mentioned the candidates that qualify or don't qualify. There's rumors of lawsuits going against Fox News or the GOP or any of that for the candidates that didn't qualify. What do you say to them going forward?
Well, I say that the RNC has made efforts to make sure all of these qualifications are public, that they're out there, they're applied transparently and without bias. That's what we've done. We've made sure that these requirements are public months in advance, that the standards and methods that go into those requirements are also public, and we make sure the candidates know that. And so we apply them without bias and fairly. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
Well, I have to say, I enjoyed last night. I really enjoyed the partnership with Rumble. I thought there were some fun fireworks last night. And if you want to hear me talk about this more, we're going to do so at the top of the next hour. Tommy Pigott, Strategic Communications Director for the RNC. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.